We're back, SFA News Live. So I shared with you a little bit that we had this retailer panel looking through the lens of it. But before we get to the panel itself, I got to tell you a story. When I was in college, I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia. Every Friday night, we would walk from Drexel, which was about 32nd and Market, 34th and Market, somewhere around there, and walk down to the Italian market. And every Friday night, we would have dinner at a restaurant called Villa di Roma, which is still there, which is still one of my favorite restaurants. If you go there, chicken Neapolitan is my favorite dish. Next to Villa di Roma, I discovered this fabulous cheese store. I grew up in the cheese business. My father was in the cheese business, but not the upscale, really fine Italian cheeses. And it was called Di Bruno Brothers. So we used to go in there after or before, depending on how late it was, to get cheese that we would have and eat in our apartment at Drexel. So here's Di Bruno Brothers.
I'm here.
So Emilio's third generation. Now you have a lot more than just that one store.
We do. We have 5 retail stores, and then we kind of got vertically integrated by importing, because my grandparents had so many great relationships in Italy, and in our trips back there, we realized that we can start to work with some producers from our hometowns. And that's how it started. That's how our import business started, which then grew into a distribution business, and then a manufacturing business, from our handmade mozzarella to our spreads, and now,
and
going along with the times.
Yeah, you're in e-commerce.
That's
you're
right.
in mail order.
Yep, e-commerce. Doing mail order and events and catering. So it's just everything. Everything just makes sense for the business that we do.
So you are really the epitome of omni-channel. When you really think about it.
Yeah.
You've really done it, not necessarily planned it, but the way the business has grown.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because we didn't necessarily plan it to be omni-channel. It's just like we thought, well, we got capacity, we can do it. Let's just, let's do this, and our customers were asking for it. We didn't know what we were getting into. We made some mistakes along the way.
Of course.
And we've learned some lessons, some of them really difficult and tough lessons, and others made us better business people today,
So when we look at the trends, and you walk the show floor, what are some of the trends that you're seeing that you're really excited about in cheese?
Well, as far as cheese goes, it's all about sustainability and high quality, really great quality products, but all that comes from the farmer. So when I find a cheese that is tasting really great, I know, especially if it's a small artisanal producer, I know that they're getting their milk source is coming from somebody who really gives, put special effort into his land, because these farmers need to be land stewards and produce high quality grass for the cows to produce great milk for the cheeses. So
versus just feeding them soybeans or corn.
Exactly. And the beauty is that Italy has long been an inspiration. The European cheesemakers have long been an inspiration for cheesemakers around the rest of the world. But here in the United States, the American cheese industry has really been booming in the last 15 years. And all of that, I guess, European practices and focus on the land has really helped these American cheesemakers to create really great product. But what's more inspiring to me is that all of our American cheesemakers who made it their own have inspired these European cheesemakers now in this wave to think outside the box and not just do their typical DOP or AOC cheeses and stick with the norm, but think outside the box and come up with really creative, really interesting, really flavorful, great cheeses.
I want to talk a little bit about the farmers and authenticity, because that's what Di Bruno Brothers is all about.
Yeah.
So I know that Italy is trying to create a label to show consumers what's authentic and what's not authentic.
Yeah.
So, for example, we can go into a supermarket, buy an Italian-sounding olive oil, and find out that the olive oil is really from Tunisia or Spain or whatever else.
Just pressed in Italy.
And they all put Lucca on it. I've been to Lucca. There's no olives that are being pressed in Lucca.
That's right.
In the town square, there is like an old concrete one, but nobody uses it.
It's not in use.
It's for show. Yeah. So where do we stand on that, and how important is that to the farmers, to the Italian producers, to be able to get that authenticity through to the consumer?
So I'll tell you, Phil, it's one of the most important things that PGI or IGP designation for them, which makes them feel comfortable in knowing that their product stands out from these other things that aren't genuine or authentic, and it makes them feel better about it. And they've been struggling over the last 15 years since they've had this designation to get that word out and market it. But stores like mine, when you come to specialty stores, we educate our consumer about that logo and that tag on the olive oils, and it's what really we thrive on, because the authenticity, like the Bruno Brothers, is all about authentic and real.
And building a relationship with somebody who's going to go and have their kids go and their kids go.
But the beauty is that in our stores, they're small, so we can have those conversations with people. And I see the frustration in the bigger supermarket world, because they don't have the personnel to be able to do that on the floor for the consumer who comes in. And for the most part, they've trained the consumer not to even ask those questions.
And also, the people that they've got on the floor probably can't answer the questions
Well,
either.
yeah, that's the truth, right? So, and that's why businesses like ours will always be around as long as we give that experience and educate along the way. And we're out there just preaching the word of good food, in every aspect: olive oil, vinegar, balsamic, you name it, cheese, charcuterie. So it's important.
So yesterday I was talking to Gary Hirschberg, who also really cares about land and the farmers and so on. And, he's really concerned, as I think a lot of people such as you and Gary are, that what we've done to our land from an agriculture standpoint is harmful. And he was telling me that they now have a project called Stony Fields, that they're going around the nation and they're cleaning up parks, because what they're finding is these playgrounds that kids are playing in, that the soil is toxic.
Yeah.
And nothing's been planted there, nothing's been sprayed there, but because of everything around.
Yeah.
So how serious of an issue is this here in the U.S. or globally?
Well, I mean, it's an issue. It's a bigger issue here in the U.S., but it is an issue globally. The people that are doing right by their land, like these farmers that I speak about, that we like to support, they're a minority. There are so few, and there's so many places. I cringe and feel terrible when I see, the pastures are not so lush. I took a trip to the UK 2 years ago, and I got to tell you, the farms and the pastures and what you see, it's so it smells different. It smells clean. It smells like the cheeses are going to taste. It's incredible to me. And when I travel around the United States and I see these dead spots or this land that's been harmed, it hurts me a little bit. And it's a big issue. The best thing that I can do to help these farmers is to keep preaching that word and selling their product, so that more people get inspired to want to make a change and do more. And we're seeing that today. Young people are starting farms, moving to farms, buying farms to do just that and create that impact. So I think we'll see some kind of we'll see a move in that direction over the next 15 to 20 years.
And I also think, going back to the cheese itself, we have a few generations, starting with the baby boom generation, who grew up on processed American imitation, whatever, who basically have no taste buds. So they could eat probably 6 or 7 slices of this orange stuff and not feel satisfied.
Right.
I could go into Di Bruno and get a small piece of a great Parmigiano or whatever.
Exactly.
And just, it satisfies, because it's what you said.
Because of the layers of flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope, and I think we are, especially because of the millennial generation.
Yeah.
I hope we're going back to that people care more, not about the quantity of food, but having that flavor, having the taste.
I agree with you, and I hope so too. One of my issues is that I'm in my small little bubble of a world, and I see it happening, but I can't be sure that that enough of it's happening.
Right.
I see it, and there's a lot of it going on, but I guarantee you it's not enough.
Right.
So we need to keep, retailers like us and manufacturers or producers or makers like the ones we support need to continue to get together, grow together, have venues like SFA to have these conversations, which is great because it's totally inspiring to me to be able to have a conversation with a cheesemaker and tell them that our customers do love their product and that they're not doing it for nothing, and we will be there to support them the whole way.
So let me look through your lens for a little bit. I know you've been busy with board meetings here and everything else, but I'm sure you've walked around the show floor a bit. What have you seen that you said, wow, that's really cool? I wish I did that.
I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, the plant-based stuff and the quality of product being produced today on a small scale, the focus, the hyper-focus to the quality raw ingredients, which I think is important because people are starting to realize, we all know the book, The Omnivore's Dilemma. Mm-hmm. And if you take one thing out of that book, it's that real food costs real money.
Yep.
And these farmers and makers and producers need to be rewarded for the hard work and effort they put into their product. Nobody's getting rich in that world.
No.
You know what I mean?
In fact, in the U.S., I don't know about Italy, but in the U.S., the average farmer loses $6,000 a year. So what that means is they have to have a second job in order to do it. So
or somebody in the family, the wife or the husband has to go and do something else. Yeah.
And I think you're right.
It's constant.
It's not about having a high price. It's having a fair price.
Exactly.
So that the farmer does well, that the producer does well, that the retailer does well, and then I think we all win.
Yeah.
And again, we've seen these stores that pilot high and sell it cheap, and they go out of business.
Yeah, they don't last too long, but there's no values there, as a people, right? And which is why I get so inspired by it. And the trend that I see is this move to really clean product, really well made, using really great raw ingredients, and us working with that manufacturer to get it at a fair price to them. I don't go in and negotiate to get the cheapest price or the lowest price because I know if I do that, they're not going to be able to sustain or be around.
Right.
And if I really love the product, I want to reward them by selling more of it. Right. But how do I do it? We come to an agreement on a price, like what keeps them, sustainable, and then we go out as a specialty retailer, and the margins that we used to get 10 years ago aren't there, but we accept that, and we know, and it's just about educating, and sustaining, and that's the experience that we want to deliver.
Well, keep up the great work, and next time I'm in Philadelphia,
you're always welcome. Door's always open, pal.
Thanks so much,
my man. It's a pleasure.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the origins of what happened here at Specialty Food, and also how supermarkets started to get into culinary with a person who really started the first culinary school ever in the U.S. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.